Welcome to the November 21st meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. If you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence. If I could have roll call from my left, please.
I'm Brian Collegian.
Nancy Austin.
Mike Dolan.
Carl S. Moore.
Tom Nickel.
Tom Panzella.
I'm Dave Salka, City Planner, Meg Green, Board Secretary. I'm the temporary chair of this evening's meeting because both the chairman and vice chairman are unavailable for this evening's meeting. So the first order of business tonight will be to elect a temporary chair for this evening's meeting. So I would be glad to entertain any nominations from the board.
I'd like to nominate Carl S. Moore for chairman for this evening.
I'll second that.
We have one nomination. Do we have any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, may we please have a vote? All those in favor of Carl S. Moore as chair, please raise your hands. All those opposed? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The first order of business is new business of the approval of the 2018 minutes calendar. As the board has a chance to visit the new calendar as of yet.
Make a motion to approve the 2018 meeting calendar.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Next item for business is the public hearing. It's been continued from November 8th, 2017 and has to be closed by December 16th. 65 Plains Road, CDD1, petition of AAP Builders, LLC for special permit and site plan review for 12 units of housing constructed under CGS 8-30G on map 53, block 939, parcel 30, of which 65 Plains Road, LLC is the owner.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can you please announce, or I'm going to ask you to announce that 100 Rattan Drive, which is item 3 on the agenda this evening, has been postponed and will not be heard this evening. It will be heard at the December 5th meeting.
All right. Prior to that, 100 Rattan Drive, LI, petition of Tribus Beer / Sean O'Neill for special exception for brewery with a pub and patio on map 73, block 928, parcel 4Q, of which Best Buddies LLC is the owner, has been postponed until December 5th, 2017. If we can revisit back to the public hearing for item D, number 1 of 65 Plains Road, CDD1. Any representatives?
Can we ask why?
I didn't know if you were going to address them.
Can that be addressed?
The public hearing was postponed because there are only 6 members of the Planning and Zoning Board tonight. That particular application is a special exception and requires at least 7 members of the Planning and Zoning Board to be present. We have 4 board members who are not here this evening. So the applicant has requested, and correctly, that it should be postponed.
Can we have it entered into the record who's not here?
So 65 Plains Road, just to remind the board, was actually closed, and we were waiting for information specifically regarding the neighboring property, because it was told to us that the applicant was seeking permission to use the property and to regrade it. We have received that information from the attorneys for the neighboring property.
Can we ask who's missing?
This is a public hearing.
This is for item 1, 65 Plains Road at this moment.
So we received the information that the board left the meeting open for, so you can now discuss 65 Plains Road if you'd like.
So under item 1 of 65 Plains Road, you're out of order, and if you continue to do so, we may have to ask you to leave or have you escorted. So any discussion on 65 Plains Road by the commission at this time? No discussion. Any items from staff, information?
Again, we received from them the letter from the neighboring property owner giving them permission to enter their property for regrading. That was the information we were waiting for. So the board, is in a position, if you'd like to vote on that tonight, you can.
All right. So any discussion on the board if we would like to close on this or have this brought up at another time and probably vote again?
I have a question, Mr. Moore. Mr. Sulkus, is the public hearing still open on this or no?
The board basically left the public hearing open for receipt of confirmation from the neighboring property owner that they would give permission to the applicant to enter the property and do some regrading. Basically, that document was supporting the testimony given by Mr. Lynch that night.
All right. Just to refresh my recollection, this is the application that's in the CDD1 zone. Is that correct? Okay.
So once again, for the board, would we like to vote on this tonight, or we want to postpone it for another meeting?
I'm fine with voting for it tonight. I mean, if you guys feel more comfortable having the whole board here. I mean, as I recall, there was a public hearing. There was only one person opposed to it. I think the public's had an opportunity to be heard. I think we can vote. I mean, that's just my feeling. I don't know if anybody else feels differently. I don't feel that strongly about it, but I think we can vote for it if everybody else is okay with it.
So I'm okay with voting as well this evening. And the public hearing has been closed, correct? I have to officially close it, or?
Well, you can say the magic words since you
right.
received the information.
All right. The public hearing for 65 Plains Road, CDD1, petition of AAP Builders LLC has been closed. And if we want to vote on this tonight, we'll take a motion this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve 65 Plains Road as it was presented.
We have a motion on the board. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is another public hearing that's been postponed to this evening and has to be closed by December 26. 32 Field Court R-5, petition of Donald O'Brien for special permit, site plan, and CAM report for new single-family house home on map 28, block 574, parcel 6, of which Saul, Patricia, and Glander are the owners.
Good evening. My name is Paul Scalzo. I reside at 32 Torrey Lane in Brookfield, Connecticut. I am here representing Westchester Modular Homes, which is the builder for 32 Field Court. With me this evening is Mark Gorka, who is with the Connecticut Department of Housing Grant Program, and Patricia and Saul Englander, the owners of the property. My understanding is the board has reviewed and found the application compliant, and we're here tonight just to answer any specific questions that you all may have.
You have anything for staff?
Our zoning review found the proposal to be zoning compliant, and the coastal area management review found that there was no apparent adverse issues to the environment.
Mr. Nichols.
Tell me the relationship between 30 and 1/2 to 32 Field Court.
I'm hoping I get this correct. If not, I'll ask Mr. Englander to come up, or Mark Gorka to answer the question. But my understanding is the Englanders own 2 houses, and we have it down as 30 Field Court and 32 Field Court. You said 30 and a half?
The mailbox specifically says 30 and 1/2.
I'm going to ask Saul to come up and answer that question for you.
Good evening. I'm Saul Englander. 30 and 30 and a half are on one piece of property. 32 is a separate piece of property. There were always 2 units on what I call 30 and
Excuse me,
30
sir,
and a
if you
half.
can, speak into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll repeat. 30 and 30 and a half are on one piece of property. 32 Field Court is right next door on its own piece of property.
Is 30 and 1/2 completely built, or is it in the stages of being built?
Now, 30 and a half, I did not take damage enough to have to restore it. 30, which was on the shorefront, was destroyed more than 50%, and that had to be redone. Although 30 and a half did take damage, it didn't take sufficient damage that it had to come down.
Sir, it seems to me that 30 and 1/2 is running open sewer lines into 32. The risers are sticking out of the ground into 32's property. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Is that right?
No, well, we have an engineer.
To my knowledge, all 3 units were on separate sewer lines. The new sewer line from 30 was just approved the other day by the building inspector.
You may want to let me speak to this. I'll speak to it if you want.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nickel? Paul Scalzo, Westchester Modular Homes. The engineer, or Aero Engineering, was looking into that and was going to resolve it with your engineering department. But I don't know what the resolve is, but I know they were looking into it.
But what lot is this sewer line on? That's what I'm trying to, I mean, it's feeding into 32, yet it's...
Yeah, I'd have to look into it and get back to you. I don't have a specific answer for you.
There's a whole separate sewer line for 32 Field Court. It runs out the north side or east side of the building. We're specifically here, to my knowledge, for 32 Field Court. I lost that in Sandy. I've been out of a home now for over 5 years. I've had to find other locations. My wife is partially handicapped. I had to get a handicap accessible rental on top of this, and I have a very large mortgage on the 32 that I have been carrying this here 5 years and 2 months, plus paying the taxes, plus required to have flood insurance to keep the mortgage that I have, and just never expecting it to take this long. Financially, it's a super drain. I'd like to get back into my home. I think we've tried everything possible to meet every requirement that has come at us, both from HUD, the city, and it's basically, I think it's affecting us health-wise also.
Let me answer this question. Mr. Nickel, we can have our engineer look into that, and whatever's satisfactory to the town will do.
Any other questions from the board? The staff, this is a public hearing, so we have to ask everyone.
Correct. This is a public hearing, so you can open it up to the public.
All right. So this is a public hearing, so we'll be opening up to the public. We ask that you follow the following procedures when presenting your comments. We ask that you approach the podium, clearly state your name and address while spelling your name. Address all comments to the commission only. If your comments have been previously presented, please refrain from repeating them. State your comments in a clear and succinct manner as possible, and keep your comments to under 3 minutes if possible. We will ask first that those in favor and then those who are speaking against the proposal first. And following the public inputs, the applicant's representatives will have the opportunity for rebuttal. We will ask those who are in favor of the procedures to please approach the podium. Seeing none, those who are opposed, please approach the podium. Also seeing none, any comments from the board? Seeing none, is there any reason why we should not close the public hearing this evening?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we have a second? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. We'll ask again for the public, if we, for the commission, if we want to vote on this evening.
Let's vote.
All right, so we will vote. We'll ask for those who are in favor. A motion? A motion, I'm sorry. A motion. Mr. Nichols?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve this 32 Field Court on a condition of approval by the city engineer in regard to the issue that I brought up. The motion would be to approve it as indicated here, except for the condition that I brought up.
Is that appropriate, staff?
How about, may I make a suggestion, that you make a motion to approve on the condition that the sewer connections from this property to to the city system are to the standards and accepted by the city engineer.
Do we have a second? Mr. Panzella. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Third item on the agenda has been postponed as previously presented, and we'll go on to the fourth item, which is 328 Meadowside Road, R-12.5, petition of Thomas Lynch Esquire for a special permit and site plan review for 830G 12-unit residential complex on map 26, block 263, parcel 15 of which Beachland LLC is the owner. Mr. Lynch.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, for the record, my name is Thomas Lynch. My office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street. And I'm here tonight with my clients, Bill Colombo and Peter Romick, who are seated in the front row behind me. Both individuals have lived here in Milford their whole lives. They both have ongoing businesses here in Milford. And they're before you tonight to develop a piece of property that they purchased earlier last year, located at 328 Meadowside Road, for a development of a residential multifamily complex on this property in accordance with the provisions of Section 830G of our Connecticut statutes. Along with me, as well as my clients, are Washington Cambyses from the engineering firm of Cabela and Cambyses from Bridgeport. Washington has appeared before the board with me on other occasions presenting applications, and he's going to go through the details of the site plan that he has proposed. I also have with me tonight David Spear. David, again, has appeared before you on numerous occasions. He's a traffic engineer. He put together a traffic report to analyze the traffic that would be going in and out of this project and dispersing on Meadowside Road. He has a report that was previously submitted to you, and he will go through the details of that report. And I just wanted to state, just at the outset, I know that this board has had a number of applications presented to it over the last year involving multifamily applications brought to you under Section 830G of our statutes. I think you're going to have a little bit of a respite. I think this is one of the last ones that had been pending over the last year or so, going through the department reviews, so that, again, just personally, I want to say to you, these applications do generate public comment, they generate emotion, and sometimes the board members are the brunt of that. And I just want you to know that I appreciate that. You've always given consideration to each application on an individual basis and given it your full thought and review. And I hope that you do the same with this application as well. So just as a little bit of background, the property at 328 Meadowside Road currently has a single-family residence that's located on the property. It was built in the early 1960s. That's going to be demolished and removed for the development of this project. The property is located in the R12.5 zone, residential zone, calling for 12,500 square foot minimum building lots. But as I'm sure you've all gone out to the site and seen, there's been a transition over the years in this area when the Meadowside developments were put in after World War II, and that area was primarily through the 40s, 50s, and 60s single-family residential development. There has been a change in that area. There are numerous multifamily properties developed in close proximity to this site. The property is located directly next door to the Oyster Bay condominiums, which contain some 40 units. Across the street at the corner of Siemens Lane and Meadowside Road, there's the Meadowside condominiums that were built back in the 1960s. And then there's two large multifamily developments that are properties of the city of Milford, the Milford Housing Authority properties located on DeMayo Drive and on Jago Drive. DeMayo Drive is off to the shore side, and the Jago property is on the state access road leading from Route 1 to the Silver Sands State Park, and both of those are senior multifamily residential developments. In conjunction with that, I appeared before you back in 2015, and a 17-unit project at 335 Meadowside Road was approved by the Field brothers, Buddy Field and his nephew Chris. That is now fully developed. It's been rented out. I believe all the certificates of occupancy have been issued on those units. And that project speaks for itself. It was developed in a manner that is an asset, I believe, to the area. And in conjunction with these other multifamily projects, I use the term that this is a transitional zone between single family and multifamily. So, you know, I wanted to stress that right from the outset. And I also want to stress that with the proximity of this site to downtown Milford, with the bus line, Milford Transit goes through the Meadowside Road area. Developments such as this lend itself to complementing the downtown development. It's close to Route 1, it's close to the downtown, and with the public transportation that's available there, it does aid in actually possibly alleviating any traffic that would be coming from the property. As we have with all of our other applications submitted to you under Section 830G, we submitted an affordability marketing plan. You have that in your packets. I believe that it's been distributed to you. It's similar in nature to the application that we brought to you last month for 65 Plains Road, which you just voted on tonight. The layout of the property is similar. It's a little over a half an acre. It's got 4 buildings with 3 units each. There's 15 additional parking spaces that are on site, and as with any application under 830G of our statutes that's presented to you, 30% of the units have to be set aside to be rented to tenants that meet the 80% state median figure and the 60% state median figure. And again, as I had presented to you last month, these are all 1-bedroom apartments. So those tenants that meet the 80% state median income would be renting apartments at a rate of $1,150 per month, and the other 2 units that would be rented to tenants meeting the 60% state median figure would be paying rents in an amount of $915 per month. We anticipate that the other 8 market rent units would be rented somewhere between $1,800 and $1,900 per month. I believe you also have a listing of the department reviews that were given to you. I received David's comments and his staff memorandum this afternoon. It speaks for itself. He does make note in each of these 830G applications comparing the setback and the height of the buildings to what the standard for the zone classification R12.5 is. And it's noteworthy that on the rear yard, there's a 14.8 foot setback where 25 is the standard. On the other side yard, there's a 6.8 setback where 10 is the standard. And the building height is 31 feet. Single-family residences in Milford can have building heights of 35 feet. So we're submitting to you that in terms of setbacks, in terms of proximity to the other properties, and any intrusion from claims that these buildings are high and are going to be looking down into people's homes, we submit to you that, in fact, the height of these buildings are less than what the single-family height requirement under our zoning regulations calls for. I also note for the record that in your file you have the letter from Mary Rose Palumbo, our Inland Wetlands Agency Director, the compliance officer, I should say. She reviewed the plans and on July 31st, 2017, issued her memo to the effect that there's no inland wetlands impact at all on this site. We also received a copy of Greg Podleski's engineering review from August 3rd of this year. His findings were that the plans were adequate. He made some recommendations that the plans should be revised to note that the roof leader drains are to be connected to the stormwater mitigation system. Washington has done that on revised plans that were submitted. He also made a note, and we are fully agreeable to a condition of an approval, that the project involve removal of existing curbs, sidewalks, and the driveway aprons, and installation of the new superstructure for the city roadways in that regard. I appeared with my clients back in March of this year before the Sewer Commission. The Sewer Commission issued an approval on March 22nd, approving the hookup of this property to the city's wastewater management program. We also received on Wednesday, June 28th, the review of these plans from Bernard Begley, our fire marshal, and Bernie reviewed these plans and issued a full approval, so the fire department signed off on these plans. The plans were also submitted to the police department. The traffic division of the police department, specifically Private Hemperly, issued his memorandum, which was adopted by the police commission back in June of this year. And very briefly, he goes into the fact that the property will involve parking on site that complies with the zoning regulations, even though the applicant isn't required to. But the telling line is the last line, where it states that the proposed development will use the existing driveway at 328 Meadowside Road, where no sightline issues exist. Based on the above, it is the recommendation of the traffic division to approve this proposal as it is submitted. Now, we had an independent traffic review, which David Spear will go through, and then the city required an independent review of that traffic engineering report, and I believe that that will be submitted to you tonight as part of the testimony after I'm finished. Lastly, the question has come up on other projects as to the collection of garbage. There are no garbage enclosures on site. Each unit will have a garbage bin and a recycle bin, and All American Waste will be contracted by the developer to come onto site to remove the garbage. And as we've done with the previous applications, we've submitted to you a picture of the small truck that will come on to the property to remove the garbage. There'll be no public safety issues involved with a large garbage truck backing onto the property and then coming back out onto Meadowside Road. So that completes my comments. I'm going to turn things over to Washington and then to David to give you the traffic report. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Washington Cabezas of Cabezas DeAngelis, Engineers and Surveyors. I didn't want to reiterate a lot of what Attorney Lynch just mentioned. I just want to start out if there's any site plan questions or engineering questions right off the bat. If there's anything that I can address, I can do that right now. Or I can just go through each of the plans if you like.
If you can just go through the plans, it'd be good.
Sounds good. I want to start off with the existing conditions survey. Is that okay? As previously mentioned, there's an existing single-family home on the property. Can you get to it? Located as such.
Excuse me, you can detach the mic where we can hear you more.
Okay. Thanks. So there's an existing detached garage, single-family home that'll be demolished, and these symbols here indicate soil testing that we did. to see what the modeling levels and any restrictive layers that may be in the soils for the new drainage system that we have to design. Next sheet is the site plan. There we go. As mentioned previously, these are 4 3-unit buildings. Each building has its own garage at grade, so each unit will have its own enclosure for their vehicles, with 15 additional spaces on the southerly side of the property. The entrance will be basically towards the middle of the property here. There's about 30% building coverage for the on the site that's proposed, and 69% site coverage. That'll be so that will leave like 31% open area or lawn space. Excuse me, let me just adjust this real quick. Let me hold the microphone for you. What are you doing?
I saw it coming apart. There you go.
Thank you. So also, this next page shows a grading and drainage plan. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of infiltrators on the site to carry the drainage for the roof leaders and the proposed parking area. This was actually a round of edits that were done a couple months ago with the town engineer's comments that he had. We made a couple of changes and updates, and this is the latest drainage plan that we did in order to satisfy the town engineer's comments. Also, the grading is going to be lifting the back end of the site a little bit because the site kind of like goes downhill towards the back. And we're going to lift the grade up. We're going to have a little bit of a slope over here. But for drainage concerns, we're going to propose a trench drain all the way around the back perimeter of the property, just so as an extra protection for runoff. Next plan here is the soil and erosion control plan, where we have 2 stockpiles here, a very massive anti-track pad here with double silt fencing along the back and single along the sides. A landscape plan here. We'll have a lot of perimeter landscaping, and there's a planting list here, and also a requirement of 75 inches of tree diameter per acre, and we're meeting that with the proposed planting that we have. And then these are our site details, construction details, the galleries that we're proposing, soil and erosion controls, and the last page is another set of details as well for the drainage, the sewer lines, and the driveway. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to address them.
We'll ask the questions after the other presentations, sir.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, my name is David Spear. I'm the principal engineer with DLS Traffic Engineering. We were asked to look at this application from a traffic engineering point of view. I have a record copy for the town. I believe you all had the electronic copy and ran print, but I'd just like to submit this one. So I would like to briefly go through the traffic study, the key points. The site is 328 Meadowside Road. Our scope of work included a site visit. We collected Connecticut DOT counts and accident data. We reviewed our prior counts in the area. In the study area, we had a few adjacent intersections. We also did automatic traffic recorder counts on Meadowside Road at the site to confirm and update the older counts. We estimated trip generation. We projected to the design year. We projected background numbers and combined volumes, and we did capacity analysis. We included 3 intersections in our study area: Meadowside Road at Eldred Drive, Meadowside Road at Great Meadow Drive, Meadowside Road at the proposed site drive. The peak hour volumes in the area are relatively moderate, and the bidirectional volume during the critical peak, which was the PM peak hour, was 780 vehicles or less passing the site. The accident history from 2014 to 2016, which we collected within 500 feet of the proposed site drive, which is basically the intersection site distance area approaching the driveway, showed 1 rear end accident. There were no trends, and this project we don't expect to have any significant impact on accidents. The intersection site distance was based on, our analysis was based on the 85th percentile speeds, which we collected with our ATR count. We found there were 34 to 35 miles per hour traffic in both directions for the 85th percentile speed, which based on conduct guidelines would indicate we would like to have 390 feet or more. We have over 400 feet of sight distance in each direction. The proposed conditions, we estimated site-generated traffic based on 12 townhouse units. Our trip generation estimate was based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation data, which for that land use results in 9 trips during the AM peak hour and 11 trips during the PM peak hour. The directional distribution of the site traffic was based on the existing travel patterns, which was roughly a 50-50 split. The level of service calculations, we did calculations at all 3 intersections during both peak hours, without and with site-generated traffic, and the level of service was level B or better for all analyzed movements. I would point out that the majority of the traffic through unsignalized intersections, such as these in the study area, is free-flowing with no conflicting volumes at level of service A with no queues or delays. So the only thing that's actually analyzed is the traffic exiting at a stop sign or the left turn into a side street. In conclusion, we found that there were no accident trends, very little accidents in the area. The intersection site distance is very good. Level of service is B or better. And the result of our study indicates there's no significant impact on traffic operations from the proposed development. And that's the summary of my study.
Mr. Chairman, I would think perhaps it would be best at this time to hear from the independent traffic analysis. I think the gentleman is here tonight.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good evening, members of the Commission, Mr. Chairman. My name is Andy Chakraborty. I'm from BL Companies, professional engineer licensed in Connecticut. We were tasked to review the traffic impact study prepared by DLS Traffic Engineering, and we generally agree with the conclusions that are in the traffic report as well as presented in this evening. There are minor technical issues that I would like to go through and would like to see those changes made if possible. If not, then we are fine with it. First of all, we usually take issue with traffic counts that are 4 years older. In the study, DLS uses 2013 traffic counts, but since it's the most conservative, and they were probably likely taken in the summer of 2013, And going by the size of the project, we are okay with it. Taking a look at the existing traffic flow diagrams, it's 55-45 split. Again, it's probably more the other way, but given the peak hour volume of only 10 plus minus trips, any change in distribution would be inconsequential. The other comment we have basically involves the site plan. We would like to see the curb cut geometry being adequate for the appropriate design vehicle, and the delivery or service vehicles can enter and exit the site without backing into Meadowside Road. Thank you.
As far as, this is Washington Cabezas again, as far as doing a turnaround for service vehicles or trucks of that nature, big trucks, we would need some sort of a cul-de-sac on the site, and I don't think the site will support that. We'll have to basically take the curbing all the way to the property line and see if we can get one to fit and do like an auto turn in there and see how the turning paths would work for a truck. We do have the 24 feet between the parking stalls and the buildings, which is adequate for passenger vehicles to make right-hand turns, back out, and go face forward into the road. However, in order to do like a large cul-de-sac, that would basically eliminate probably a building or something like that if we had to do something like that. I just wanted to refer to that comment.
I just wanted to briefly talk about design vehicles. This question came up at previous hearings, and I can submit a copy of the vehicles the biggest vehicle would likely to be on this site, which is FedEx UPS delivery type trucks, which are the smaller step vans. It's actually a DL23, which has a smaller turning radius than a SU30 vehicle. And that vehicle can turn into the site, and it would be able to turn around and pull out forward out of the site. So if you would like it for your records. Unfortunately, my template I made is a 40 scale, and our site plans are 20 scale. So if you want to overlay it, you either have to shrink my 40 scale, or shrink the 20 scale, or expand my 40 scale. But if you would like it, I can submit it for your information.
Mr. Chairman, that completes our presentation, and if there's any questions that the Commission has, we can entertain those at this time.
Thank you, Attorney Lynch. Staff, do we have any comments after the presentation to help the board make an informed decision?
Basically, you have my report, which was actually summarized by Mr. Lynch. So I really have nothing further to add. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Sulcus. Any comments or questions from the board? Commissioner Nichols.
In regard to the SP2, SP3 trucks, what do you consider a contractor's vehicle, SP3 or SP4?
How do you define a contractor's vehicle? I mean, that can come in any number
Well,
of
you're
sizes.
building in there, sir, and you have concrete trucks that have to get in there, and you're telling me that they're going to back in off of the road, or they're going straight in and they're going to back out?
In Connecticut, construction traffic is considered temporary. So any vehicles with regard to the construction would be a temporary situation. When they're constructing, the buildings aren't there yet. They have more space to move around. There's no parking in the parking lots. It's not really an issue.
So it's not an issue. So does that mean that you will have a policeman there to guide these vehicles in and out during construction?
I wouldn't expect that's necessary. If the town, you know, forces that on the applicant, you know, that's not a normal practice.
Thank you.
Mr. Nichols?
Yeah, on these setbacks, especially the one that's behind ADG, you got 6.8 feet where 10 is the standard. How are you going to construct back there if you have to?
The setback from the northerly, northeasterly property line to the building, yeah, is about 6 feet. In reference to the foundation or just the structure itself, is because I mean that's. I'm not sure what do you mean, like without encroaching into over the property line, you mean?
Yes. How are you going to construct back there without going over the property line? And if in fact you do get it built and something happens back there, how are you going to get in there to rectify it?
Well, I mean, that's more of a construction sequence question. However, I would imagine that the applicant would have to receive permission to be on the other side of the property line in order to have safe practices during construction. You're okay with that, Bill?
No, you can build no problems.
You want to answer? Yeah, he has more to add.
Yeah, hi, Bill Colombo. We do construction all the time in smaller pieces of property. That's why they make miniature machines, miniature excavators, miniature skid steers, concrete buggies. We can do full excavation. I mean, we do house lifts all the time down on the beach on 0 setbacks without crossing the property line. So it definitely can be done.
Yes, sir. Is this a situation where you need approval from the Oyster Bay condos to go in there?
No, we do not. Absolutely not.
Another question. You said the lot tilts to the rear. The rear yard is 14.8 where 25 is the standard, and you're going to put some kind of a trench back there to rectify that?
Yes, I'm just going to go to the site plan that shows that information. So what I was trying to say previously is that in order to flatten out the grade on the property, so we have a nice flat parking area and drainage that'll drain towards the center of the property. The back of the site would be, grade-wise, would be picked up a little bit, and to accommodate for any additional runoff from the grass slope, might I add, we're going to basically put a infiltration trench around the rear perimeter up to at least the face of the last building. So it's going to be like this portion of the perimeter with an infiltration trench, just to satisfy any additional runoff that will during heavy rainfalls. Of course, it's it's his lawn, so it's going to soak up water anyway. So we're going to propose this. It's just an additional precaution.
Yeah, I understand the back of the building. I'm concerned about the water running into the front of the building.
On here, on this side? Well, everything's pitched to these catch basins. So we have a elevation of 63.6 for the slabs, or at least there's one rear slab is 63.6. The catch basin over here is at 62.8. total of 8 tenths, which is about 10 inches of pitch to the catch basin. So we're designing this driveway area and parking area so that the low points basically here, we have 2 low points, one here and one here, to get all the drainage from all the buildings and the edges of the parking area, and contained in all these concrete galleries.
When the galleys fill up, where does the water go?
Mainly stays in the galleries, and during a heavy rainfall, we have an overflow system here to a storm scepter before it leaves to the town storm line.
Thank you. Is that all we have for presentation, Mr. Stone? This is a public hearing, and we ask that the following procedures will be followed when presenting your comments. If you have any written material this evening, please submit it to our recording secretary as you approach the podium. And when you approach the podium, clearly state your name and address, as well as spelling of your name. Address all comments to the commission only. If your comments have been previously presented, please refrain from repeating them. State your comments in a clear and succinct manner as possible, and keep your comments to under 3 minutes. We will first entertain those in favor and then those speaking against the proposal. Those in favor of the proposal, please come forward. Seeing none, those against the proposal, please come forward.
James Lambert, 18 Great Meadow Drive, Milford. Mr. Chairman, in the first paragraph of the Milford Planning and Zoning website, it says, "The Planning and Zoning Office ensures the health, safety, welfare of the community by enhancing and protecting the Milford quality of life, responsible for growth and development, attractive built environment, preservation of Milford's unique character and natural environments." I know the state makes it difficult with the affordable housing based on the 830G ruling, but that should not be a loophole for these builders to disregard all the planning and zoning rules just so a builder can make a profit. Recently, this board approved an 830G project on 335 Meadowside Road. This board did make some positive changes to Field Brothers' plans by reducing the amount of units from 18 to 15. At the public hearing for this project, the attorney brought up the fact that the builder was going to lose money from less units. I do not believe this board or our town has to help builders make it profitable, especially when there's so many people against this project, except for the builder. If this project gets approved as is, what does this do for the surrounding neighborhood? I didn't need to hire an appraiser. I went to the tax records, and it notes in a section that's called C1, CI, which means commercial influence. And the properties abutting those or close to 335 Meadowside, their land value went down by $10,000. That's $10,000 according to the town. That certainly affects my welfare, my neighbors, which this board is supposed to protect. This certainly will affect the resale value throughout the neighborhood. On the 335 Meadowside project, it didn't help. They tore down all the trees on the boundary line, putting up a 6-foot white fence that certainly didn't block the view of these 3-story plus buildings from Elgin Drive. I'm not opposed to affordable housing. In most cases, the builders can choose to improve the neighborhood. The project on 328 isn't trying to improve anything but the builder's wallet. Proving my point, they're asking to put 12 units on a piece of property that is just over a half acre. This is simply financial greed from the builder. 335 Meadowside has 15 units on an acre of property, and the town already told us that how much it devalued the neighborhood. According to the state, planning and zoning can make a reasonable request. Mr. Chairman, my suggestion is for this board to review these plans more thoroughly. I believe this board can reasonably ask the builder to only allow two-story buildings on this property, building a parking area for tenants, creating a turnaround for commercial vehicles such as the FedEx. I don't believe a FedEx truck is going to have a special one come out to deliver presents at Christmas or any other occasion for their properties. We know this is a safety issue for the vehicles to maneuver in a tight spot. Looking at the current plan, I see the issues with water runoff to the abutting properties. This plan has a building only a few feet from my property line. If you look at the elevation, the property has a large drop-off. Close to Meadowside, the elevation is about 67 feet. When you get down to my property, only a few feet away, it's less than 56 feet. I know I'm not an engineer, and sure there's someone here tonight that will try to prove me wrong, someone most likely paid by the builder. I see plenty of drain systems in the parking lot, but when the rain comes down, as hard as it has several times this year, I don't believe their drains will be sufficient to prevent runoff onto my property and that of the abutting properties. On the 335 Meadowside project, we were told we would not have runoff onto abutting properties. Well, the house directly behind the project has plenty of water issues. Matter of fact, you could ice skate on their driveway during the winter last year. Keep in mind, this property is 2 times the size of the proposed project. I'll let the engineers argue with the board on how great and efficient their designs are, but for me and my neighbors, we've already seen the results. Thank you.
Anyone else against the proposal?
Adrian Duramo, 308 Meadowside Road. I was handed a copy of the minutes from the March 22nd Sewer Commission meeting session, and it was brought to my attention that there were issues with the sewage, the gallons per unit, and I was wondering if this was addressed, because this was supposed to be addressed tonight, or some report was supposed to be submitted. According to Commissioner Collier, bypassing the sewer equivalency numbers established creates a slippery slope with future applications. Apparently, there was no ability to change the configuration because there were 3 units per building, so he couldn't reduce that, but they were saying they were going to put restrictors. I don't know that that's going to help us. Right now, I can show you pictures. Our parking lot has alligator style. The asphalt is coming up because of the water table. Our building itself has 3 sump pumps, 1 in the elevator shaft and 2 in the basement, just to address what's already there. We have 6-inch water lines in our basement, and I don't believe that this is going to help our drainage issue at all. I'm concerned, especially with the proximity of the building. I would like to see these plans. I mean, it is coming in my neighborhood. I don't know that I could tell whether this is going to work, but I don't know if there's going to be shrubs there. I don't know if there's going to be runoff because of the erosion when they start excavating and moving soil around. So this is a definite concern. Also, with vehicles backing up onto those sidewalks, there's many, many people that walk on Meadowside Road. There's a bus stop there. There's a school there where students walk from school. So that's a real safety issue. Let's see if I have anything else. I guess that's pretty much it, but I just wanted to correct Attorney Lynch. There are 72 units at Oyster Bay, 2 buildings with 36 units each that are impacted by this. So I wish that my fellow neighbors had come in numbers like we are with our concerns, but only a handful of us showed up, but we all have concerns. If anybody would like to take a look at these pictures that I took, I'd be happy to share them.
You can bring them to the podium, please. You can
Bring them up?
Yes.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, any discussion going on has to be on the record for all to hear.
Yes, we just told her that they have to be submitted. Yes. We'll get that from staff from you.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the proposal?
Hello, my name is Doug Graham. I'm a unit owner and resident, 300 Meadowside Road. I've lived there 21 years and owned the place for 21 years. And I didn't come here with any rehearsed thing. I've heard a lot of facts and figures. I'm amazed that someone who wants to build would hire a lawyer and a team of experts. I would just like to shed upon you what I've witnessed, okay? I looked at this house when it was for sale myself, just out of curiosity. You know, single family home, what does it look like? And we walked in there and we said, this place is a dump. If I bought it, I'd bulldoze it. Okay, that's an investment opportunity. There's no way in the world would I put a 12-unit complex next to Oyster Bay condominiums. The arrogance of answering a question and saying, do you need approval from Oyster Bay? No. 72 people live in those buildings next to, within feet. I walk by here every day, and there's about this much space from the hill that goes into our driveway. This guy did a great job, she did a great job, and I just want to enlighten you, if no one's ever walked by this property, it is asinine to put 12 units on this piece of soil, if you want to call it that. And incidentally, about drainage, when we were talking to this realtor, okay, not seriously about buying, I was just curious, and I liked the backyard, and she said, oh yes, but there was a drainage problem, but it's been corrected. Well, this correction goes into unit 308, as she's pointed out. I mean, this is bad news. You can call it builder greed, you can call it whatever you want, but there are 72 people invested in those units next door. People, just picture, you have homes, okay? And the house next door is for sale, and someone calls in and bulldozes it, and they want to put this complex in an area that clearly has traffic congestion and issues or potential problems with affordable housing, whatever you want to call it, other units going up in the area. This is big time investment problems, and more importantly, quality of life, okay? I came in here, I've never been to a planning and zoning meeting. You know, I'm just out of just, you know, pure interest, the beauty of that neighborhood and what it could become if you let people tell you, we'll put catch basins in and we'll correct it and we'll do this. BS. 12 units of that property, go look at it yourself. It's crazy. Thank you for your attention.
Anyone else against the proposal?
Good evening. My name is Susan Glennon. I'm at 99 Carlson Drive. It's Glennon. I do want to just procedurally say I'm a little disappointed that there's barely a quorum here that's hearing this public hearing tonight, and I do believe the public has a right to know which board members are absent, as somebody was trying to ascertain earlier. Normally that's done as part of your roll call, where you indicate who's not there, but I do think the public has a right to know that. I have multiple concerns about this proposal. Some have obviously been stated. Traffic. The Silver Sands traffic in the immediate area is horrendous. It was very hard to hear the traffic expert's testimony, but it seemed to me that he named some intersections that he looked at. It seems that he chose the smallest intersections that he could in the area. They're dead-end streets. You have some rather large intersections that he could have looked at that I think would have a greater impact on the numbers that he found. Mr. Lynch correctly mentions that there are other multifamily developments in the area. I would argue that those are all on appropriately sized pieces of property and have been there for a number of years. And again, this is a walking route for students going to Meadowside and Jonathan Law Schools. Beyond that, my property sits behind this lot. The area in between is wooded, and the trees and the brush that exist to the rear of the property at 328 Meadowside provide habitat for lots of wildlife. Will the deer, turkeys, and others that live in the woods be driven more so than they already are into neighbors' yards? Ticks and animal excrement are already a problem for the residents and the many children that live and play in the area. I don't believe in a minute that the wildlife will go someplace else. I think that they will adapt to whatever's there and they'll stay put. That could be considered a health hazard. The back of my property and the adjoining area are already wet and accumulate water, as has been stated by other people that live in the adjacent properties, especially in the spring. It's boggy. When you walk back there, your feet will sink into standing water, and there's visible vegetation that typically grows in wet areas, skunk cabbage, etc. The existing trees and the brush help soak up the water. What will happen when they're gone? I heard mention of yes, the property does slope significantly toward the back of the property. It has a southeasterly slope right towards my property. I have concerns about water runoff and soil erosion once the half acre of ground and vegetation that help absorb the water is dug up and replaced with impervious surfaces. Where's the water going to go? So again, what will happen when the natural environment is disrupted and the half acre of earth that is there now is replaced with 4 buildings and asphalt? Because that's basically what you're going to have. You're going to have 4 buildings and asphalt on a half acre of property. So I ask you tonight to use the tools that the Planning and, as the Planning and Zoning Board that have been given to you under city regulations to order your own independent studies. I'm not sure about the, quote, independent traffic study that Mr. Lynch introduced. I'm not sure how that's independent. But you have the capacity to order your own traffic studies, perk and soil erosion tests, and any other studies that you feel will help you understand the impact this proposal will have on the area. Your own independent studies that the developer has to pay for. That is your right under the regulation. So really, have you ever had a developer present to you studies that have a negative or unfavorable, that are unfavorable to his project? You don't ever see that. You have the ability to order your own studies. Please do your due diligence and look out for the residents that you represent. Order the studies tonight so they can be completed by your deadline date. Don't wait. It's your decision, the 6 of you tonight. I had hoped it would be 10, but it's only 6. You're my elected officials. You have the right to do this. Please do it tonight. Don't wait. Thank you.
Do you have anyone else against the proposal? Seeing none. I'm sorry, we have someone come.
My name is Andrea Davies. I live in the condominium next to the proposed property. And I just wanted to thank you for allowing us to come and express our opinions. I just wanted to say that we're so lucky to live in Milford. It's a beautiful community, and we want to keep it that way. But when you have a developer who wants to build so many buildings on such a small property, I'm concerned about that. There are a few condominiums in the area, but they are set back, and as I said, they're very few. We also have the problem with traffic and how that will affect everyone. Silver Sands is becoming more popular. You're getting a tremendous amount of traffic. And then add that to the new condominiums that are proposed, I think it would be impossible. So I just wanted to say that it's in my interest and the people who live in the condominiums where I live, that we want to keep the beautiful nature of the area And we hope that that will be a consideration of the board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matt Glennon, 22 Crescent Drive, formerly of 99 Carlson Drive, which is right behind this property. First of all, thank you to all of you for taking...
Sorry, can you repeat your name and address, please?
Matthew Glennon, 22 Crescent Drive here in Milford. So first of all, thank you all for taking your time tonight. We appreciate it. Understand that this statute puts you in a difficult position because your hands are tied to some degree. I'm not going to, I'll spare you taking you through the statute and all that. I'm sure you're well versed at this point. But I did just want to draw attention to something that's barely been touched on this evening. I know a lot of the studies have been focused on traffic and sewer concerns and whatnot, but I think there's also a very legitimate and scientifically supported health concern here that was lightly touched on, and that's the deer population that lives directly behind in the wooded area where this is going to be built. The Connecticut Agriculture Experiment Station, they've been conducting they have conducted or in the process of conducting multiple studies. Just a few quick facts. There's 3,000 cases of Lyme disease in Connecticut a year, believed to only represent 10% of the actual cases. As the deer walk around, 10 to 50 female ticks are attaching and falling off each day. They then lay 2,000 eggs and die. There's new types of diseases being discovered. This past year, we have seen double the usual number of ticks that the study has received, and they look into that, and there are many, many cases of Lyme disease found in these ticks. And most importantly, children are most at risk from ticks. So as we see construction commence and then an increased population, there's no doubt that this deer population will be pushed further and further into the neighborhood, creating an actual legitimate health hazard. Senator Blumenthal, in an article, I believe it was the New Haven Register, referred to tick-borne diseases as becoming an epidemic-like scourge in Connecticut. And we actually saw a death in Connecticut as well. So given the increased activity, the construction, all those sorts of activities that will be taking place and pushing the deer into the surrounding neighborhoods where they're already encroaching, you're going to see lots more human-wildlife interaction. That there's a demonstrable health risk at play here because of the diseases that ticks do carry. As our elected officials, I would think that you would agree that the safety of our children is a legitimate health and safety concern that outweighs the ability to add a few extra houses in a neighborhood where none of the neighbors want those houses. So essentially, I feel that approving this will be putting the children in my former neighborhood, I used to play all the time around there, at a greater health risk. And while obviously a denial of the application would be preferred, I also understand that you have the power to order independent studies, make modifications to the plans, things of that nature. So I would ask that at minimum you order a study on what this construction and what the new living situation could have on the wildlife population, how that would affect it being pushed into the neighbors, the increase in disease risk that would place on the surrounding neighborhoods, and as necessary, you could require fencing to be installed also as part of this plan if you see that fit. Fun facts, looking up things like this, the average white-tailed deer can jump an 8-foot-high fence, so I would think that you may, because of the disease concerns, wish to build, at least for those neighbors who wish, the ability to have fencing installed at cost. And then also just echoing, mainly stemming from the design plans that were presented here this evening. I've heard, I'm by no means a construction expert, but I've heard many a time of plans not going as planned, failures in construction, things of that sort. So just hearing the what sounded like somewhat uncertainty around the water runoff situation, having lived down a hill behind this plan. That sounds like it's something that could lead to soil erosion, lead to, potentially structural defects in the land that is surrounding this. Looking at this plan, I'm not sure how, if this trench were to fail, how you get the proper machinery back there to remediate any situations. You're surrounded by woods and whatnot, and it looks like there's a building in the way if you have to get back there to do anything. So just another quick thought, so thank you.
Have anyone else against the proposal?
My name is Paulette Peterson, Peterson. I live at Oyster Bay Condominiums. One additional concern I would like to bring to your attention is I believe that the independent gentleman that did the traffic study did have a concern about the study being somewhat older already. And my concern is whether there will be any consideration given to the impact of the traffic that may ensue from the proposed changes to Silver Sands that the state plans. That's it. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else against the proposal? All right. We've been asked to take a 2-minute technical break at this time. Thank you. The meeting is back to order. At this time, at the request for the public, we will read off the names of those commissioners who are not here this evening. Scott Marlowe, Rick Verone, Jim Quish, and John Grant. Resuming the agenda, we will have Attorney Lynch address the public for their comments at this time.
Well, with all due respect, I'm not going to address the public. I'm going to address the board in response to some of the comments from the public. First of all, just to address the comment that Ms. Glennon had stated, I didn't introduce, and I'm sure you know this, but I want to make it clear, I didn't introduce your independent traffic engineer to the public or to the board. I was just asking him to come up to the podium so that he was a truly independent reviewer of Mr. Spear's report, and his fee is paid by my client because that's the way that the city ordinance calls for it. So that I just want to make that clear. And secondly, I have to make the comment that the majority of the comments from the public tonight came from individuals residing in Oyster Bay Condominium. That's a project that was approved through a zone change back in the 1960s, and I stood corrected by the residents there. There are 72 units there, and we did a quick unit count per acre, and there's some 20 units per acre on that site, and my client is proposing something that is very similar to that, so that we're making the comment, and I made the comment at the outset of my presentation to say that this area does have other multifamily residential projects in close proximity. So that was the reason why I was bringing up the other property next door. And if I stood corrected on the unit number, well then, we're proposing something that's very similar in terms of density. And in terms of Mr. Glennon's comments as to the deer. There is not going to be any disturbance of the woods behind this property. The woods to the rear of the property are not my clients'. I think it's part of the Oyster Bay property going down to Carlson Drive, and there's some 300 feet distance between Carlson Drive and my client's property. But to make it clear, there's not going to be any disturbance of any woods. The property has been cleared. There'll be some slight additional clearing once the house is taken down, but the majority of the area where supposedly the deer roam is not my client's property. He's not going to be doing anything to disturb them. And to summarize a lot of the comments about drainage and traffic, that's why we have experts. And not only did my client retain the services of a traffic engineer, he also had to pay for an independent review of his engineer's work. And this came all after your expert, the traffic division of the Milford Police Department, looked at this project and issued it. So, we can all make anecdotal comments about traffic and density and the effects of accidents and whether or not the engineer took traffic counts at different intersections. But the bottom line here is that has been reviewed by 3 different experts. And as it relates to the drainage, my client retained the services of a reputable engineering firm in Bridgeport to come before you with plans that show a 0 runoff from this property as a result of this development. And those plans were reviewed by your expert. So I don't know how many experts need to come before you with a straightforward, simple site plan and then review it, but that's what we've done. So I think we are presenting to you an application that meets the spirit of the Affordable Housing Statute. I've said to you many times, and you know this, absent any compelling public health and safety issue that overrides the state-mandated public policy for towns to encourage development of affordable projects. That does not exist in this application. It's very clear. This application received review and approval from all of your departments, and I'd ask that ultimately you consider this and vote affirmatively. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify one statement, and just for the public's information. Andy of B&L was hired by me on your behalf per the process through the city ordinance. I just want to make that clear, that your independent traffic consultant is Andy of B&L, and yes, by ordinance, the applicant is the one who paid for it.
Thank you, Mr. Sulcus. As part of the public hearing, the public has a chance to rebut the comments from the applicant. Only those who previously spoke, please approach the podium and again give your name and address and respond only to the comments addressed by the applicant at this time.
Doug Graham, 300 Meadowside Road. I just find it kind of amusing in a way that someone who's paid to represent this, by the way, find out, made a mistake, 40 units to 70 units, and then all of a sudden calculate the math and give you the impression that Oyster Bay per unit is the same as what they're proposing, like it's no big deal, which goes back to my initial thing. Please visualize. I mean, I live there and I know. And this is bad. It's bad, okay? So please, do this from the heart. Do it for the good of Milford, not for builders. You know, if I were making an investment in a property and I wanted to build on it, I would get my approvals first before I hired a team of legal experts to try to push this through. I mean, when you buy a property for $260,000, you better know what you're going to do with it and not try to run over people's lives, okay? That's all. 72 units to 40, boy, that's quick math, man.
Jim Lambert, 18 Great Meadow Drive. Just to be clear, do they not need a variance from this board to get the project approved? They don't need it at all, even though it's 6.8 feet from the property lines. Okay. I hope you take that in consideration if it's not next to your house.
So again, Susan Glennon, 99 Carlson Drive. Just to clarify, my request to you is that you order a full traffic study, not a peer review. My understanding is this is supposed to be a public process, so I was kind of surprised to hear that Mr. Sulkus ordered a traffic study on your behalf without you requesting it. I don't remember ever hearing that being done before. But again, I think a full traffic study should be done by an independent traffic engineer. And it's unfortunate that it can't be done during the summer because there is considerable amount of Silver Sands traffic, 7 days a week from spring to the into the fall when the weather is still nice. Mr. Lynch is correct that there is wooded land in between the two properties, my property and 328, but 328 Meadowside has a considerable amount of wooded property in the back end of the property, and again. There was mention made of something being lifted up in the back because of the grade. So just goes back to my request for independent studies for soil erosion and perk testing. Thank you.
Andrea Davies, 300 Meadowside Road. I just wanted to repeat that the nature of the neighborhood will change negatively if this project is going forward. And I would hate to see that as far as the nature, the animals that live in the backyard of that property as well. They'll be going into the neighboring properties. And just for the nature of Meadowside Road. Thank you.
You have anyone else who would like to address them? As part of the process, Attorney Lynch, the applicant, has a chance to rebut the rebuttal. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board at this time? Commissioner Dolan.
I have a question for Mr. Sulkus. Ms. Glennon, one of the members of the public requested that we order some independent tests or hire some independent experts for various things. How viable are those options, and can that reasonably be done in a relatively short amount of time?
Depends on what kind of experts you're looking for. What data that's been presented and approved by city departments do you have issue with? Keep in mind the city departments that review our data are your experts as well.
Right. So I guess to start with traffic, I could be wrong. I believe that the gentleman that was hired on behalf of the city for the peer review said that some of the data was from the 2013. Specifically, one of the questions I had is whether the traffic study took into account the traffic that was going to be coming in from the new project that was approved at 335 Meadowside Road.
Well, this is why you have an expert. You can ask him that question.
Sir, can you answer the question?
Members of the Commission, again, for the record, my name is Andy Chakraborty from BL Companies. Regarding your question, it seems like DLS Traffic had projected traffic into the future, accounting for that development.
It did account for the 335 Meadowside?
That is correct.
All right. I think that you said something that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, and if I'm not stating this correctly, I apologize. I believe that you said one of the things that concerned you is that some of the data or something was from 2013 where you would have liked to see something more up to date. Can you kind of elaborate on that for me?
Sure. Usually the standard traffic impact study guidelines state that data older than 3 years is usually not valid. But in this case, what DLS has done is taken a look at past year's data and basically chose whichever was the highest in terms of traffic volumes. And our, my thought is that that data was from the summer of 2013, which represented that spike in volumes. And we think that the traffic volumes, existing conditions on the street, it's probably going to be lower than that number. However, we are not in a position to comment definitively on that because we don't know what the numbers are today.
Let me ask a follow-up. If there was to be, if the board were to, rather than just go on a peer review, if they were to order an entirely new traffic study, I guess, with data taken from cars now, do you think that would be preferable than the data that was done by the applicants, or that would be preferable to the data used by the applicant's traffic engineer?
From the guidelines for traffic impact studies published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers and which is nationally recognized, I would say yes. Any more questions?
Any other questions from the board?
Tom, did you say you want? Okay.
There seems to be great confusion about the traffic volumes. If you look in my report, I have detailed count data in attachment 2. There's one count, DOT count from 2012. There's also a DOT count from 2015 in the study area, and we also did automatic traffic recorder counts in 2017. So we have very current data. There's no question.
Sir, can you address that?
As I indicated before, the numbers, in my judgment, won't be higher than what is being used in the study. But however, the turning movement counts and the intersection counts were not in the present time. So yes, the ATR counts from 2017, that was for verification purposes only, and we don't know what the exact turning movement counts are today.
Any other questions from the board?
I guess I have another one for, I think this is probably for Mr. Sulkis. One of the members of the public brought up a concern, I think, raised in a March 2017 meeting about the sewers. Is that an issue now, or has that been?
No, we have a letter specifically that the Sewer Commission at that meeting, because that's when March 22nd is when the application went into the Sewer Commission. The Sewer Commission voted on it on May 24th of 2017 and approved the application. So there's no issues as far as the Sewer Commission is concerned. They have conditions that are common when they view all these applications, that there's follow-up and checks that they put in the right kinds of fixtures, but we have a full approval from them.
Could I address that? Michael, I have in my file as well the minutes from that meeting, and of course, you know, I was there and represented Bill and Peter at it. There's a new series of sewer count standards that have gone into effect, and prior to the meeting in March on this particular application, they were using the old standard. And the argument that we had made was that the sewage count that we came up with based on the one bedrooms was some 70 gallons per day off from the old number. And we had proposed to have water saving devices be considered in terms of the application. And that was the discussion that went back and forth between myself and Ned Collier and Ray Macaluso, who's the consultant to the Sewer Commission. So the net result of that was they approved the application with the condition that we use these Moen water-saving devices. They're low-flow devices that actually save water. Since that meeting, they have now changed the sewage gallonage numbers. The Sewer Commission has come out with new guidelines, and under the new guidelines, this application would, in fact, meet those sewage numbers. Okay.
Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, I propose that we close the public hearing for this evening. Do we have any objections from the board at this time?
I think I have an objection because I think once it's closed, I think our powers, what we can do in terms of ordering independent experts is over. I think at that point, if I understand it correctly, I know that the board has very limited power when it comes to the 830G applications. I think the public is starting to understand that now that we've been going over them for the last 3 years, and eventually we've had to approve them. So I think there's very little that the board can do with these as a whole. One of the powers that the I think it was the Board of Aldermen gave us was to try to combat what we're the uphill battle that we're facing, is to give us the opportunity to hire our own independent experts. And I just heard a peer-reviewed expert stating that it would be better to do a brand new traffic study using all data now. So again, I'm sorry if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but.
What my comment was basically to have traffic numbers from this year in terms of turning movement counts. That doesn't qualify to be a brand new traffic study in terms of like analysis and everything else to be redone. The numbers can be verified by doing current day turning movement counts. So.
The numbers can be verified, what?
The numbers that DLS traffic has in their traffic study can be verified by doing intersection turning movement counts at present day.
Okay.
The traffic impact study doesn't necessarily need to be redone.
Okay, all right, but you can do it at certain intersections is what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay, so aside from that, is there anything that you think would be beneficial in terms of doing additional testing now?
From a traffic point of view, I think we agree with the general conclusions of the study. And we suspect that even if the counts are collected at present day, it won't show much in terms of deviation from what the study says. But from a technical point of view, we don't know the numbers where they are right now. So.
Okay. So I guess what I'm proposing now is to do a new testing with what our peer-reviewed expert has suggested at the certain intersections that I think you had mentioned before. I think that would be beneficial. I think that anything that could potentially be beneficial to the public, I would think we owe it to them to do. If it's going to be an extra expense, either on the applicant or the town, I mean, that's tough. I mean, I think it's worth it to do it. So that's what I would recommend.
Commissioner Nichols?
Yeah, along those same lines, I would like to see the Silver Sands traffic factored into that as it was this past summer.
So just so we're clear as to what you're asking Mr. Spear to do, could you repeat that? And I'll write it down.
I think I would need our expert maybe our expert could repeat it for you based on what he told me before.
Good evening again. What I would suggest doing is collecting turning movement counts at the intersections that DLS has already studied in order to verify whether the traffic volume numbers which the study has is correct.
Okay. And is that something that I just have a quick question. I don't doubt Mr. Spears' integrity at all, but I'm wondering if, just objectively, is that something that you'd be able to do, or would it be more appropriate for Mr. Spear to do that? I don't know if Mr. Sulkus has an opinion.
Well, I think if we have an independent traffic consultant, and he's your consultant, I think he should coordinate that study.
I think that that's probably appropriate. So I would ask that if you could do that, that would be great.
Okay. I mean, that's not part of our original scope of services, but I can definitely consult with Mr. Sulkus on that. Thank you.
Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, for the applicant's engineer, when was the perk test done on this lot?
Right on our plan it says March 2nd, 2017.
I would just like to comment on this discussion here regarding the traffic. The site-generated traffic is 9 trips in the morning, 11 in the afternoon. That's, in the morning it's 2 entering, 7 exiting. In the afternoon, it's 7 entering, 4 exiting. Your consultant agrees with the ITE data. The background numbers we verified with our current counts. If you recount those intersections, no matter what they say regarding the turning movements, our site traffic will not impact anything. There's absolutely no chance of that. You're just wasting everybody's time and money.
Staff, can we close the public hearing while having this independent study taking place, or should we keep it open?
No, because that'll be new information, so the hearing should be kept open.
So we'll keep the public hearing open?
Could I procedurally ask that the public hearing be kept open just for that purpose?
You can ask.
Can I ask?
I think we might be informed by any other things that might be open that the public might have input or want to discuss. I think we would like to have it open for anything.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. So can this all be brought back to the board, or can you ask your consultant to report back for the December 5th meeting?
You can ask staff how would that work as far as timelines.
So our consultant is going to have to give us a proposal so we can know what the cost is, and then using the formula in the ordinance, I'm going to ask you to cover that cost.
Right.
And then obviously he can be then authorized to conduct his work. Without talking with him, I don't know if it can be done between now and December 5th.
I'm looking over my shoulder. Because they have a new board that comes on in January.
Usually would typically do traffic counts between like 2nd or 3rd week of December because, I mean, after that the Christmas traffic pattern sets in, or before that the Thanksgiving, the holiday traffic pattern sets in. So ideally I would say 2nd week of December would be, for the traffic counts would be ideal.
Okay. Thank you.
Scheduling-wise, that would work if we have that data for the December 21st meeting, because the hearing has to close by the 26th.
All right, the public hearing will be left open pending results from the traffic study. Moving on to the agenda. Item E, we have a chair's report. I have nothing at this time. Item F, liaison reports. Do we have any liaison reports this evening? None. We have a regulation subcommittee. Mr. Grant isn't here this evening, so we'll move on. And item H, approval of the November 8th, 2017 minutes. Do we have a Mr. Panzella? We have a second? Mrs. Austin. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Staff report this evening.
None this evening.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Panzella. Mrs. Austin. All in favor? All opposed? Meeting is adjourned.